Hi Lee. So this is my second attempt. I did try to record a more general video that I thought I could just send you and upload to YouTube. And I just struggle with the whole idea of talking to no one and everyone. So I stopped it and I decided to run through for you, and it may end up on YouTube or not. Otherwise it's a test run. So thank you so much for Saturday. I learned so much, and it really has provided me with the next steps that I needed, which is to create a video that expands upon my introduction document that allows people, anybody, to understand my work. So I'm going to go kind of right back to the beginning. And by this point, some of this will represent a bit of repetition. So I'd like to, previously with my videos, I've tried to kind of prioritize wasting no time. I don't like wasting people's time. And I decided in the shower this morning that I definitely need to just take my time and expand as much as I need to. And if it ends up being like 2 or 3 part video, then that's actually okay. What's more important is that I do close the gap to understanding that does exist. This work does require a stretch of each of us. Anybody that wants to understand the I Ching alone, let alone decode their whole life path using it, does need to make a considerable stretch. So I'm going to go to the introduction document and work through that. I'm just going to walk through this document and expand on it as I go, specifically in relation to, sorry, bear with me. Okay. So each lifetime we journey out from and return to the source of all that is. Oh, can I just say, by closing our eyes, we disengage those left brain sensory tools, disabilities. And I think I find it personally just easier to understand something if I'm listening, if I close my eyes. So each lifetime we journey out from and return to the source of all that is. We experience 2 paths, both are predetermined by you. You coded your own DNA, set in motion at birth and progress without your involvement to the planetary universal compass and larger solar cycles. The pulse of creation made manifest at the speed of light the moment you were born determines every moment of every day of your lifetime experience, the lessons you came to learn and the polarities within yourself you came to collapse as you journey back to the center. A destined path, we have no free will over the journey. Your ability to adapt to that which crosses your path is what shapes your heaven or hell within the experience. My work is a self-contained study of the oldest book in the world, the I Ching. The I Ching is known as an ancient divination tool. It takes its form from a set of 64 hexagrams and corresponding texts that describe the human experience and provide guidance to that journey. The archetypal hero of the I Ching, the Junzi, teaches us to adapt to that which crosses our path. Before starting my journey with the I Ching, I already knew 2 things. 1, we code our own DNA. Who else is going to do it? And 2, our natal snapshot, the time and date of our birth, is all we bring with us. In my search to understand myself and my path this lifetime, I've studied my natal snapshot deeply across many ancient disciplines and systems, the most fascinating of which was the Maya, and in particular the life's work of Jose Alguez with the 260-unit harmonic module and sacred calendar. It was through Jose Alguez that I was introduced to the I Ching, and it's been a gift to view it through the lens of the Maya that his work provides. Fascinated by the synchronicity shared between the 64 ancient texts of the unfolding human experience, and the 64 codon count of the human DNA, I was compelled to unravel the architecture hidden in the shadows within this ancient book of wisdom. Okay, so let's just stop there for a sec. So let's go and have a look at the harmonic module. There's a lot of noise going on outside, sorry about that. Not too loud. So this is the Mayan sacred harmonic module, the sacred calendar. I'll just briefly explain how it works. So the Mayan numbering system, so what the Mayans understood was that it takes spaceship Earth, let's say, 52,000 years to cross the galactic beam that is the program for that age. And so the sacred calendar just breaks everything down as a fractal of that 52,000. So then we get the 26,000, and then we get so we end up coming down to 52, 26, 13. So within their system, there are 20 archetypes and 13 numbers, so 13 harmonic resonant numbers. And the sacred harmonic module, the sacred calendar, which is still considered the most accurate calendar ever, just runs through downwards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So a dot is 1, obviously, and a line is 5. So their numbering system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then it goes back to 1 again. It just runs all the way through like this 20 times. So it's 13 by 20 is the harmonic module. And that 13 and 20 come out of the 52,000 as a fractal of the whole. So what the sacred harmonic module actually represents is this grid, but it's actually 20 deep. So each place, each number is indicative of each one of the archetypes then on the third, so on the third axis. So this is actually a block. Yeah, it's actually a block. There's 13 by 20 by 20. And yeah, that's how we get the 52,000. So it's cyclical in nature, and everything conforms to the Hunab-Ku, which is this. And what this is indicating is the draw of the left, the yang, the yin, the light, the dark, heaven, earth, and then this spiral to the center. So one of the kind of main things that's come out of my study is the fact that every single path, what that path exists to do is to take you from the edge, from an extreme polarity, and bring you back to the center. So every center has a center. Center is the yin. Everything on the outside is the yang. So we have that atom, which is and when the moment you were born, that pulse of creation, it would have pulsed out from the center to the edge, and then the rest of your whole life is that journey back, represents that journey back to source. So at the moment of your incarnation, the whole full path program is in place. Life is a simulation as we work our way back to the center, as we collapse polarity, because the center is beyond polarity. The center is oneness, wholeness, unity. So we have the same kind of messages being told to us the other side of the planet, and understanding the loom of the Maya and understanding the sacred harmonic module was really key to my journey. So it was in the book, The Mayan Factor, and this was recommended to me by Indigo Angel when we met the first time. We were discussing the books sitting in front of us on our desk, and there were some similar ones. And she said to me, "Oh, you must get this. You must read The Mayan Factor by Jose Alguez." So this book was the first book that kind of, I would say, changed my life. This book expanded me and introduced me to Jose Alguez, who turned out to also created Earth Ascending, which is a book of maps. And having already spent some time creating some maps within other systems, mapping the Guardian materials, and mapping astrology, tropical astrology. Yeah, so this was exciting. Anyway, I'm just going to come back to this. So in the first book I read of Jose Arguez, he lines up the sacred harmonic module, the Mayan, and the I Ching, the I Ching, and he also uses the original traditional layout, so the Fuji radial arrangement of the I Ching, and studies how that corresponds with the loom of the Maya and the sacred harmonic module. So he says, like the I Ching, the Tzolk'in, so the harmonic model is the Tzolk'in, is a system for revealing information relating to a deeper or larger purpose. While the I Ching is precisely synchronized with the genetic code, the Tzolk'in is synchronized with the galactic code. As the genetic code governs information concerning operation on all levels of the life cycle, inclusive of all plant and animal forms, the galactic code governs information affecting the operations of the light cycle. The light cycle defines resonant frequency ranges of radiant energy, inclusive of electricity, heat, light, and radio waves that inform the self-generative functions of all phenomena, organic or inorganic. These two codes are obviously interpenetrating and complementary. So the situation that he's kind of describing here is one whereby the classic Maya were most concerned with us understanding Earth's position in relation to the cosmos, and the I Ching was concerned with the genetic programs that run within that same system. So within the 12-dimensional or the 15-dimensional universe, just look that up. Discussed this the other night. Sorry, bear with me. Right. So just going to step back a few paces to the Guardian materials, the work of Ashayana Dean, who we discussed the other night. So in 2002, Ashayana Dean brought information to the planet with regards to, or information from the Guardian Alliance. The Guardian materials represent the 144 lessons of self-mastery, and the MCEO teachings are very, very broad and deep, but the area that I've been most concentrated to study is her work around ascension mechanics. So this work, I've recreated this work, and it is based on the MCEO Freedom Teaching Series, which is copyright Ashayana Dean 2002. So what Ashayana Dean helped us understand was Earth's position in the galactic universal structure. I think that might be labeled the wrong way around. But so your divine blueprint, your 12th dimensional self, your soul level, your avatar level, your full self, is at least 12th dimensional, and your soul resides safely within the 12th dimension. Forgive me, this is just like the easiest way I can kind of hope to explain this. Your soul, your avatar level self, is safe at the 12th dimension, and your oversoul chooses to play one of 1728, which is 144 times 144, 1728 versions of you that can be played into any galaxy or lifetime, depending on the soul growth that is required that lifetime. So in order for you to take a lifetime on Earth, you send down an anchoring rod, a little spark of your D12 frequency from your divine D12 where your divine blueprint is held. You carry this coding, you carry the coding of your 12D self in your DNA in every cell of your body, and you send down an anchoring rod in order to have an incarnation down to the third realm. So one thing that so Ashayana says of fetal integration, which is this move from the universal down into the galactic structure, Earth being gate 3, the third realm within this galactic structure. So this is our solar system, and when you come in through stargates to get to a planet, it implies that your template takes on the mathematical coding of the stargate you came in through. So what we're dealing with here is the mathematical coding of Earth's stargates. And that's what my work encompasses, is the unraveling of the mathematical coding that is of Earth's stargates. So my work is only relevant to Earth, the I Ching is only relevant to Earth, or certainly only relevant to the human of the type that has a 64 code on DNA. So there will be other planets, galaxies that carry that planets in other galaxies that carry that coding, but yeah, that's what we're dealing with, is the DNA, the 12-string human that carries the 64 code on DNA. So I'd like to take a lifetime on Earth. Certainly, which path would you like to walk? What is it you're looking to learn? Okay, so you've chosen that path, then you need to incarnate on this date and time, and then that would set that path program into place. So at the moment of your incarnation, that pulse of creation made manifest at your birth is essentially you as the needle dropping on the outside of the record. So there's 384 records in this jukebox. There's a path axis on each, so the 64 times 6, which is the potential of the transforming line within that hexagram that you incarnate to. And what that means is that you incarnate into a 4-hour slot. So 4 6s are 24. So each of the transforming lines within the hex that is relevant for that day affects the path program that you incarnate to. There's no mistakes. You choose it all yourself. You code it before you come. And as the needle hits the record, it then follows it just like an LP all the way back to the center. It's the best analogy I can provide, really. And if you think of yourself as the needle within the grooves of those records, then as a tobogganist at the Winter Olympics, you know one thing's for sure: once that toboggan's left the top, then they are in that groove and they're going to ride it all the way back down to the bottom. So for us, that's all the way back to the center. So this is the universal structure, yes, the universal structure of the dimensions. So Earth is gate 3, both within the galactic and the universal structure, and gate 4 is the sun. So our sun is the portal to the next dimension, is to the next level up. And it's also the portal with which our genetic and the planetary codes are aligned. So as the fixed star of this solar system, all our genetic, all life on Earth is programmed to follow those larger sun cycles, and that's what the Mayans concerned themselves with understanding was the light cycle. And the genetic code governs the information concerning the operation of the life cycle. So I was in a bookshop one day with Lillian, and we were choosing books. And I went to the counter to pay, and this was just sitting on the counter, this book. There was a pile of these books, and I was just like, wow, what's that? So I opened it up and had a look, and I was just like, wow, hey, wow, I have to have it. So I bought it, and I brought it home, and I bought a few books, and the others were more accessible than this one. So I took a quick look through this when I got home, and then I put it on my shelf, and I didn't touch it again for a few months, let's say 6 months, and then the very day that I needed it, it was already in my possession. So that was guided, you know, all of it is, but yeah, it's you will always be in the right place at the right time. You know, that day I thought I was looking for children's books, and I was clearly there to pick up my copy of this that I was going to need, really going to need later. So by the time that Jose Alguay had introduced me to the I Ching, then I was interested enough to have gone online, and natal oracles is something that I've searched within many systems now, and so much can be learned from looking at yourself through the lens of any system that takes into consideration your natal snapshot. So your human design, numerology report, your balance report, which is numerology, gematria, your tropical astrology placements, you know, everything is important, everything is as relevant. They are all like systems that are observing the laws governing the whole system. So in order for any system to be valid on this planet, it must fall in line with the universal compass, which is the nature, the cyclical nature of this planet. So Earth Ascending, I was reading this book, and this is one of those books. So I remember a friend getting in touch with me at the time, and she was like, "What are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm just staring at this book again, hoping one day that what I'm looking at will make some kind of sense." And I was just kind of like looking at these maps. So I've gone online and I've got myself an I Ching natal reading, and the website, incidentally, is energy-master.com, and I was following oracles based on that website for about 6 months, and I was really taken by the advice that I was given access to through the I Ching itself, and also a little bit freaked out, like somebody had sat on my shoulder. So what I knew at this point, so I ended up having to step away from that website in the end because I didn't agree with the algorithms being used. So initially I set out to understand what those algorithms were and kind of took it that they would be right. So the majority of my decoding has been to get to the bottom of the algorithms driving the information, the readings available on that website. Then there came a point where I didn't agree with the algorithms, and I had to go my own way. But certainly I do agree with energymaster.com website with regards to life paths, and also how the life path axis is derived, and it's very useful. I still use it now just to find out what path anybody's on. So there's also, I have this book, and I know when I was reading Dr. Ibrahim Karim's book, this one, I'll reference all these books with you, but this is Hidden Reality, the Biogeometry, Physics of Quality, the Science of Subtle Energy and Life Force. So Dr. Ibrahim Karim, his work's like 50 years old now. We really should be learning it in school. I don't think I'll touch on that today, but anyway, the natal chart and oracular interpretation by Enos Long carries exactly the same information as the energymaster.com in terms of understanding the natal hexagram in relation to lining that up with the ancient sexagenary calendar, Chinese calendar. So they agree. And I know with Ibrahim Karim, he kind of says that if one person says something, then you kind of have to like check it out for yourself. But if two people have said it, then he sort of assumes that he can rely upon that information and concerns himself with discovering other things. And I completely resonate with that, what he's saying there. So this book, Natal Chart Interpretation by Enos Long, uses the same calculations to arrive at the life path. So on that website, I was informed that my birth hex was hexagram number 23. So throughout all of my work, I've been relying on the fact that my birth hex, I was born onto the path of stripping number 23. As it turns out, that's not actually, it's not my birth hex. It's actually my current path hex, and my birth hex was a different hex. So we each have an axis upon, so literally like by the time the record gets to the end, and it goes back to the beginning of the record, and then you walk that same path that you were born in on, because obviously at 79 years of age, the lessons that you gain from that path are going to be very different from the lessons that you were learning when you were born, you know, at very early childhood. So yeah, so when you so fetal integration is the moment at which you send down from your from the Ark of the Covenant, your divine blueprint, your avatar level self sends down, and I'll read this is from Ashar Nadine. Fetal or soul integration is the point at which our being, that is connected to your divine blueprint, your avatar level self, sends down an anchoring rod of frequency, a little spark of D12 frequency, and it anchors into the first 8 cells of the fetal body. This is the first of the first 8 cells that were formed. At the point of fetal integration, we pick up distortions in our consciousness. It's like lights out. You go back to sleep. You don't know who you are anymore or what you came to do. So, and she also sort of describes like all of the distortions that exist within this solar system, like Venus spins in reverse, Earth is offset by 22.5 degrees. Maldek was destroyed, a planet, Chiron was blown up and is now an asteroid. And Nibiru, the orbit was altered. So Nibiru is now working, I think, on the same orbit as Wormwood and taking, draining energy over to the Weiser matrix, I think. Miscellaneous other distortions on Earth include the lenses at D1.75. So these are kind of caps on our consciousness. And if we look at a graph where, let's say, 1 to 12 is to infinity in both directions, so this being like the center, and then the outside of that big kind of atom that is the whole solar system. And ultimate reality is this long, and we're only able to perceive the slice of it that kind of sits here in the 3rd realm. So you can turn it up as well onto its end in the same way that the Cathara grid spins up, and view it this way up, and you can kind of see that then that glass ceiling and the earth, the solid earth that exists between us and these other levels of consciousness. And then that just continues on up through the Cathara grid structure of the universe. We are a multiverse of universes, each of us, our own universe, literally each of us on our own planet. So yeah, that kind of explains like how we got here, and now don't know why we're here, and have forgotten. And It's also kind of like first indications of the fact that I would say that with everything, with all information that is available to us on the planet in any form right now, we only have access to half of everything or half of anything, and that can be related to all of the ancient texts. You know, all of the books have had their magic removed in order to stop us from understanding our situation here on Earth. On this prison planet. So yeah, we answered the call as volunteers, and we knew as we coded our DNA and chose to come and make the journey during Earth's ascension to support that process. We knew that we would have to give up so much, and by that I mean like 10 of the 12 strings of our consciousness. But it doesn't matter what happens on Earth. You know, your soul level avatar is safe up at D12, and yeah, we literally incarnate to planets for soul growth. It's a simulation. You coded it before you came, and you'll learn lessons as you walk that simulation. Yeah. So. Okay, and then those stargates, then they come down and they exist within each of us as well. So within Earth, then, so we have the 12 stargates of this galaxy. Sorry, this galaxy, and then the 12th dimensional universe, and then we have the 12 gates, the stargates on Earth, which are here. And interestingly, I visited. I visited distorted ley lines many times. I've been called to the ley lines a lot, and particularly in the last few years. But last year I received my first call to an organic stargate. So I visited the Vale of Pewsey, the White Horse at the Vale of Pewsey last year, and I believe that, so this work started to come in about, my work with I Ching started to come in about a month later. So I think that my visit to the Stargate, the White Horse at Pewsey, unlocked this within my DNA. So I was studying Jose Algué with the Mayan Factor and the Earth Ascending book. At the same time as I was starting to study the I Ching via the energymaster.com readings. And then I was studying those things simultaneously. And then one day I was also looking back at this book, and I came across page 111. And so you can see what exists in the background there is the PSI bank that's on the screen. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'll come back to that, but to show the actual original of this document. So this is the feathered rainbow serpent, and the Cybank matrix sits in the background. And I saw this document and I recognized something in the background of this page. And I sat here, the text is so small, and I sat here with a magnifying glass, just desperate to know. And in the end, I could only see a few in a row at a time. And I was looking at it thinking, well, what's happening? Like from one hex to the next, what's happening? And then like when it clicked what was happening, like, oh, one line is changing polarity at a time in order. Wow. I have to recreate that. And literally I jumped to it. I think it was quite late one night, and I just worked really late, just recreating this Cybank. So if you look up PSI bank, woof, which is what he calls it, the woof, like the echo of it. If you look up Cybank woof in Google, then this is literally like about the only thing that comes up is reference to this document, and that's how I found it online in Google Docs. So yeah, I've sent you that link. if this becomes a more general video, then I'll link it down below. So I've then sat and I've gone through, and I'll just walk through the process that I needed to take in order to recreate the PSI bank. Share my screen. Sorry if I jump around. I try my hardest not to do that, but I know it happens. Okay, so when I recreated that, what's actually happening there is, and I've used the example here of hexagram number 1 energy, which is 6 strong lines, 6 yang lines, hexagram 1. And the process that Jose Arguelles had taken each of those hexagrams through was out one line by line, changing the polarity until it reached its complete opposite, and then working its way back again. So it works in from both sides. So here you can see that the first line has changed polarity. The 6th line has changed polarity. That stays as it is now. And then the 5th line changes polarity. And then the 4th line will change polarity, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. So what each hex is doing, and the 12-string expression of each hex is derived by transforming each line one at a time until the opposite arrangement is reached, and then working out again in the other direction back to the starting point. This reflects the journey taken each lifetime out from and back again to source, as modelled in the 12-string flower of eternal life. Shown here. So each lifetime we make a journey out from source and a return to source, an outward journey and a return journey. On the first path, we pick up all the gifts and skills that we will need to make that return journey. So like for me, that would have been somewhere along the line I needed to come upon and practice and master graphic design in order that I could one day produce these documents or complete this work. So then when we have, what we have now is a representation of a radial journey taken by one hex to its complete opposite and back again. And if we consider that hexagram number 1 is yang, everything on the outside, and hexagram 2, yin, is in the center. So that is represented by this journey that each hexagram takes in order to create the psi bank. So the radial signature, I've called this a radial signature because it represents that radial journey that each hex makes. So the radial signature is the 12-string expression of the originating hexagram, the upper and lower trigrams. So when converting these, they don't have numbers, obviously. So when converting these, they just are what they are. And then what I needed to do was to go back to this original grid, which is the upper trigram shown along the top and then the lower trigram shown down the side, and then to trace each hexagram to create these radial signatures. So those numbers are given. It's a form follows function thing, where the number or the form of the hexagram is relevant, not the number. The number is what we use to identify it, but it's everything is driven by its form So then, yeah, then I had to say, well, okay, well, then this form of a hexagram is number 44. This is number 33. And then they're showing taking that journey around. So taking the radial journey, and you can see what actually happens here. And it relates to, no, go back. It relates to the traditional arrangement, the original radial arrangement, whereby so 44, its opposite is 24, 2, its opposite is 1. So the pairs, the opposites sit opposite. So the opposites that just appear in the radial signatures sit opposite on the original earlier heaven radial arrangement. That blew my mind. Completely blew my mind. And at that point, I really understood that something like the flower of eternal life, like a great big piece of sacred geometry, or just a very pure fractalized shape, is sitting behind all of this. So yeah, what it turned out in the end, and I didn't know this at the time, was that because the parallel hexagram, the complete opposite hexagram, which is 24 and 44 are opposites, 1 and 2 are opposites, 23 and 43 are opposites, 34 and 20 are opposites or counterparts, or that for every yin line in one, there's a yang line in the other. So they are the complete opposite polarity. And I didn't know that at the time, because the I Ching itself doesn't actually recognize the parallel hexagram at all, the complete opposite. It's indicated on the radial signature. It's part of that that's been removed and hidden. So here we can see that we have the radial signature for hexagram number 1. This is what it looks like as a path, and this is how it relates to the earlier heaven arrangement. Amazing. Just amazing how it all immediately started creating and outputting sacred geometry, and how I mean, I've overlaid the Cathara grid and the loom of the Maya and the yin yang symbol, and it doesn't matter what you overlay. If it conforms with the universal compass, then it conforms with everything else that conforms with it. And so yeah, this work has been not a discovering so much as an unraveling. And so let's just go and have a look at Jose Arguelles' Earth Ascending book. I've got a copy of it open, and I've just highlighted some text that I just want to read through. Okay, so the discovery of the Psi Bank. So this is the basis of this information, and this is the starting point of my work, was the discovery of Jose Arguelles' discovery of the Psi Bank as a model for unifying art and science and whole systems in general in the context of our natural relationships to the earth and its environment. Geomancy, the primordial science of harmony and orientation, presents itself as a prelude or foundation for a yet more refined and all-encompassing discipline, holonomics. First used by George Leonard in The Silent Pulse, 1978, as a term defining entities in the nature of a hologram, holonomic is a description of holistic knowing, a knowing that is simultaneously intuitive and rational, scientific and artistic. Thus, holonomics describes the order of reality, as well as the way we come to know and express that order. Derived from holo, whole, and nomi, law or principle governing or pertaining to, holonomy refers to the law or principle governing whole systems, while holonomics describes the study or investigation of this law or principle. As a descriptive term, holonomy ultimately refers to the universe entire as a dynamic interwoven web, transcending partial or analytic definition. If the universe is holonomic, the composite subsystems of the universe, from atomic to galactic, are also holonomic. By contemplating and understanding this holonomic model, one may come to understand the whole as well as the different subsystems as facets of one mutually interacting, interpenetrating set of orders and operations. As a way of knowing, holonomics refers to the capacity for self-transcendent knowledge. To use the traditional geomantic terminology, this is knowledge by which the subsystem man might come to know the more encompassing system, heaven and earth. Thus, as a holistic knowing, holonomics depends upon a self-reflective consciousness, a clarity of perception, and an ability to account for and create order, a process culminating in the intuitive apprehension and expression of the whole system of order of which one is a member. Being holistic, holonomy of necessity brings into play areas of knowledge hitherto known as paranormal, supernormal, or parapsychological, i.e., the specifically non-rational realm of knowing. And skip forward a couple of pages. It was Oliver Reiser, longtime physicist at the University of Pittsburgh, who was to synthesize the more recent developments of science into the fundamentally sound but undeveloped structure of the noosphere. What Reiser ended up calling the psi field in 1966, the equivalent of Desjardins' noosphere, integrated two basic scientific breakthroughs into the terrestrial mental envelope: the Van Allen radiation belts and the genetic code with its binary double helix system. The former, consisting of two belts, a heavy proton inner belt and a lighter electron outer belt, straddling the Earth at 2 and 11,000 miles respectively, functions as both a shield and as an electromagnetic membrane, recharging and recirculating the atmosphere of the Earth. DNA, of course, has proven to be the decipherable code common to all living organisms, from protozoa to protean man. Both the genetic code and the radiation bowls were discovered in 1953. What Reiser did was posit the noosphere or psi field as functioning in conjunction with the radiation belts and, like DNA, operating in a double helix manner. He further envisioned the cerebral cortex, the two hemispheres, which somehow corresponded to the two halves of the brain in man and their corresponding functions, as well as to the two hemispheres of Western rational and Eastern intuitive thought. There is no question that Reiser's daring assertion of a relationship between the Van Allen radiation belts, the DNA double helix binary movement, and the split brain analogy connecting universal human neurophysiology, the hemispheres of the planet, and the bipolar psi field was an amazing step in giving further elaboration and substance to Teilhard de Chardin's superactive film, The Noosphere, pointing further to the actuality of a planet mind, with the obvious implication that humanity comprises a single organism, was Reiser's suggestion of a complementarity of thought by which the intuitive systems of the East and the rational systems of the West comprise a global totality, two sides of the global brain, as it were. A German philosopher, Martin Schonberger, published The Hidden Key to Life in 1973. The pivot and sensational summation of Schonberger's book was the discovery of the absolute one-to-one equation of the 64 kua, or hexagrams, of the ancient Chinese system, the I Ching, and the 64 DNA codons of the genetic code. Schonberger's discovery that I Ching and the 64 DNA codons are exactly the same when written in binary order provided the topic of the funeral address given by Carl Jung in honor of the great German translator of I Ching, Richard Willem. Thus, in the exact binary equivalence between I Ching and the genetic code, Reiser's idea of a global brain distinguished by complementarity between Eastern and Western modes of thought found an unexpected yet highly convincing vindication. In discovering the discovery of the psi bank, it is important to keep in mind, like many such discoveries, this one was largely unintentional. The fact is of tremendous importance, for such a phenomenon as the psi bank would have little meaning if it were merely the invention or contrivance of a single human being. The fact of the matter is that the psi bank is uninvented or beyond invention. Its discovery, however, could only have come about through various searches for truth, which have always illumined the seemingly blind course of collective human existence with the visible traces of genuine seeking. It is with the sole intention of shedding light on the mysterious and unexpected workings of the total holonomic recollection process that I expose the manner in which I myself stumbled upon the wondrous phenomenon of the Cybank. Indeed, in retrospect, the beginning point of my search may be of more significance than the search itself, for in that beginning point, like an invisible flaw in a plate of glass, it's so insignificant at first, lies the whole secret. So I completely resonate with all of that. And when I had created the Cybank, recreated the Cybank, where is it? I had a real wow moment. So here, this is what was being discussed there about the bringing together of the left brain, which is the sensory perception, that of the conscious mind, and the ego and the personality, beliefs, and the very much your outer life is, you know, the yang, that is outside of you, acting outside of you, and yeah, in terms of the landscape of the I Ching, it's 1920, it's the social birth, but then the other side, the inside, the earth, so heaven, earth. We then have, and the south template of Jose Algué is like the healing template, is the right brain, the heart's perception, the subconscious intellect, the higher self, the inner aspects, and that's held in shadow, that you can't see, that's held within the darkness. So this idea of fractalizing the circle gives rise to the different models, and the correlation between the universal compass, which ultimately sits at the heart of everything that we look at. Okay, so I recreated that bank, and they sit here, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It moves in this direction, and that's just to really honor the original, honor where I saw it first, and in that the serpent is actually like eating its own tail, so it reflects the whole cycle. And this is what Jose Algué calls the healing template, the South template. Just find a different document. Yes, on that. So this is Jose Algué again, from the Earth Ascending book. I've taken this text, so I've remapped this for myself, but I've overlaid all of the systems to one. So we have, I won't go into that, but anyway, what we have across the bottom is the South template, holonomic amnesia, and a loss of the inherent sense of unity, forgetfulness, if not ignorance, of the fact that although the CA has been completed, the AC is still to be finished. Because of this loss, the imminent process of biopsychic radiation begins with an imperative restorative healing process, hence holonomic recollection, the recovery of the sense of unity and wholeness, sacred order, from which we actually never departed. So that's like the entrance onto that 19 and 20, the entrance onto the South template. And then return. So yeah, that's like social birth, initiato 17 to 20. And then return is the spiritual birth 49 and 50, which is seen as the reawakening of sacred view, signifies the process of holonomic recollection, when the return of Quetzalcoatl manifests as the reawakening of sacred view and establishment of sacred order. This corresponds to the movement from Kuas 48 to Kuas 49 and 50 in the return across the corpus callosum of history to the AC template. So here to the Omega. So that's the South template. So then I'm sitting literally as I've created it, and it was all in black and white at that point. So the colouring came much later. So it's a very dry document, and my first thought was, wow. So where does my path appear then? So my path is number 23, stripping this path here, and path 23. And when I looked to see where path 23 appeared, it only appeared in those hexes that were listed here in its own radial signature. So we know that 23 appears in path 27, 41, 26. So here's 26, here's 23. So 27, 23. So then what I did was to take the radial signature of 23 and place underneath it the radial signature of 27, and then place underneath that the radial signature of 41, to place them in order that they appeared in the original radial signature. And that created me this. This is the 12-string radial signature. This is the full path program for hexagram number 23. And each radial signature carries the same patterns. So what we have along the top is 23. It's just the hex. And then when you come down to here, you can see I've marked these colors on to find out where at 1 is, at 2 is. So the hexes were already given. So I was able to ascertain that in order to become 4 at 2, then this hex had to be 23 at 1. So I've been able to color code this at 23 at 1. So it doesn't matter what direction you work in, across or down, they're a mirror image across this axis, the same as what we'll come to later, the pyramid. So this is 23 at 1, 23 at 2. So the path 23 and all the paths, every path is designed you to walk from a starting polarity, a starting position, which has a preceding situation and some, we could call it earth karma attached, but certainly a lesson that you agreed to is held within this path. So I agreed to experience the lessons held within path 23. And that path sees you walk 23 at 1, 23 at 2, 23 at 3, 23 at 4, 23 at 5, 23 at 6. And then those paths look like this. So 23 at 1 is a broken line. So it's a 6-year cycle. So it's the next, this is the path of that. Path 23 at 1, the path is 23 at 1, 4 at 2, 18 at 3, 50 at 4, 44 at 5, 28 at 6. So this is actually my current path that I'm on. I'm actually in this year currently. So the entire path program is held within the radial signature. So the radial signature is just fascinating in so many ways. So it's complete opposite, walks a parallel path. So 23 is 5 broken lines, and then one solid line at the top, and its complete opposite, its opposite, equal and opposite counterpart is its parallel, sorry, is 5 solid lines and then a broken line at the top. And then that walks a parallel path to what 23 is walking. This is the counterpart path. It walks a parallel path. It's equal distance from the center always. And if you view it on the radial arrangement, the Fuji arrangement, or on the pyramid of the I Ching, then you'll see that it's always equal distance from the center. So 23 is given by the I Ching. Its pair is 24. So it's kind of like the antidote to the path, really. The path is stripping, which is erosion. And that's really about stripping away all that isn't absolutely necessary. And then it's kind of its pair, it's a friend for the journey, is return, renewal, success. So it's like what is held within this path journey is a stripping and a renewal. And that has manifested in the last 3 years. Kua's 49 and 50, hexagrams 49, 50, which is the spiritual birth. So all of the births, hexagram number 3, 19 and 20, and 49, 50 all appear on the path of stripping. And that's what it's like they're designed to do. It's equal and opposite, its counterpart, and that is parallel with it, and equal distance from the center is 43, parting, resolution. So these are counterpart paths, twin flame paths. Not always, but yeah, there's a twin flame path in there. And the counter hex, so the shift of emphasis for the originating hex is number 2, space. So I'll come back to that, but that's the radial signature. So let's have a look. Well, by struggle unfolds without your involvement. At birth, the full program is in place. Cascades 2 to 6 are derived from the extended radial signature. It's created by assembling the radial signature of each of the hexagrams held within the path in the order that they appear. So that's these along here. It's the same as these down here. So this is the extended radial signature of path 27. This is the radial signature of path 41, 26. Hexagram or path. Hexagrams are paths. And cascades 2 to 6. So cascade 1 is the moment of your incarnation, and that determines the life path axis that you're on. Cascades 2 and 6, the rest of the simulation all fall straight off of the radial signature. So the cycles represent 23 at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whatever path you're on, you'll experience each of the cycles. And then the cycles are 6 or 9 years long, depending on whether it's a broken line or a solid line. So hexagram number 23 has only one yang cycle, only one strong line cycle. It's a 39-year path, and that's 5 6s plus the 9. The other path on the axis is number 2, space, and that's 6 broken lines. So it's a 36-year path. So this is why I've said that if you were born onto a primordial energy number 2, then I think specifically you came to walk that path twice. And I've found within my own charts that it looks like I lived to 101. I'll be like Yoda. But yeah, so the reason that I chose to walk the paths that I will walk this lifetime on that path axis was to enable me to walk primordial path number 2 twice, once as an elder. and each path represents the journey from a starting point polarity back to the center. So these shapes, they appear right through the Mayan stonework. See if I can find. Let my head's trimming now. It's going. Funny. No, it's going to disturb me. Shut window, won't be a second. Sorry about that. Right, yeah, the Maya. Let's just find that. Yeah. Yeah. So the full path program immediately made me think of this, and I think this is the nunnery Ishmael. I have to check that, but this is the serpent, and you can kind of see these as paths, and these each one of these paths, these serpents, is making the journey back to the center. You can see the paths here. You can kind of see this this crisscross, which I think is the what they're talking about, like the radiation belts. This the particae, particum, you know, the weave, the fabric, which I think is on a different page. The particle is the fabric of morphogenetic field structure. Particle units grouped to form interwoven strands, then grids of electrotonal substance out of which morphogenetic fields are fashioned. Out of a unified field of particle units, particle grids form to create the frequency bands that make up dimensional fields, and then to form individualized morphogenetic fields. This is ashionidine. It looks just like the Sri Yantra, and you just see the same stuff, the energy key, the fleur-de-lis, all of the systems, you know, correlate, and they all correlate under that universal compass. The whole, like the Hunab-ku, everything is the journey back to the center, and you can see what indicates a yin and a yang path within the Mayan stonework. I think this is the Temple of Inscriptions, but this is a yin path, and you can see from the, so depending on the direction it falls, you can see that the shadows fall on opposite sides of what is indicated as a pyramid, I think. And then this path is indicated. So this is a yin path, and that is indicated by the side of the pyramid that's in light. And then when the path is shown this way up, then it throws shadow on the other half. So this is a yang path where the light is on the top of the pyramid. So that there was a day, and I'd actually just finished decoding Indigo Angel's chart. It was really early on a Saturday morning, about 8 o'clock, and I decoded like her life paths and stuff. And then I went outside for a coffee, and I sat outside, and at the same sort of time, Little, and when she's been over, she's been really wanting me to make these there's a lot of paper modeling going on. I've got like the axiom from Morley, and all sorts of these paper models. And I was looking one day, I was looking one day at this document, creating this document, and what's shown here is just I drew lines between the cornerstone pairs within the I Ching, 53 and 54, 61 and 62, 17 and 18, and 27 and 28. These are the cornerstone pairs of the I Ching. And as I looked at it, I was just like, oh, if you cut that out and assembled it, it's a pyramid. And then, just without looking at anything, I was just sort of sitting, just staring into midair outside. I was just like, oh no, they're all pyramids. Oh my God, they're all pyramids. So this is mapping. What I was doing here was mapping where the counter destinies, counter hexagrams are, and what those paths look like. So this is anything of this color as counter hex of 23, anything, and 24 is pair, 27 and 28, and I was looking to see like where they appeared within the Fuji arrangement, where they appeared within the grid arrangement, the same, the earlier heaven grid arrangement, and then I just see nothing but this shape, and I was like, oh my God. So I went and looked, and I was just like, that's the ascension column. That's the ascension column of the pyramid. This is a pyramid viewed from the top, and these two sides don't get to the center. And oh my God, that completely relates to the I Ching. That's how that works. So then I was like looking up through my book, and I was like, wow, it's the ascension column. You can only get in from these sides. Like, this doesn't go to the temple. This is the mystic column on the sacred harmonic module, the Tolkien. This is the the mystic column. So all of these relate to another, and all of these in here don't. They're all independent. But yeah, it all correlates. I was completely like blown away. So by that point, I was then working on. So just check that I covered those. Yeah, like energy key was here, big through the middle. And you've got like the energy that comes out left and right, and anti-clockwise and clockwise. And this, like, everything is towards the center. It's just amazing, like all the same patterns. These are the archetypes. So on the pyramid of the feathered serpent in Teotihuacan, there's 260 of these serpent heads. And when I understood that everything was the pyramid, then I understood also, like, oh wow, there's 260 serpent heads on the pyramid of the feathered serpent. That represents the 260 potential days that you could land on. So those are that is the potentiality of the sacred calendar, is that you're going to land on one of these. There's 260 of them in total. So I'm born here, storm at 6. So storm at 6 is only there's no other storm at 6, because there's only one in each row. I mean, this harmonic module is amazing. To understand it and to study it, there's so much magic held in it. So yeah, like you're born in, so my Mayan sign is storm, and my harmonic resonance is 6. But my youth sign was Shien, the monkey. Here, I was born in here. And then my elder sign is Manik, the deer, at it must be 1, because this represents this is my life's journey. This lifetime is my life's journey, and then this is my elder sign here. Interestingly, this is yeah, anyway. We'll talk about that. Okay, so that's that. So at this point, I was still working through understanding what the algorithms driving energymaster.com were. Well, what the algorithm, what is the algorithm to the unfolding simulation of a lifetime on Earth, ultimately. And I was looking at the life path axis, trying to work out how that works. And it was preparing this document. So this is how it works, but I won't go into it. You don't necessarily need to know, but I was preparing this document, and this document shows like all the paths that lead into 42 augmenting and the paths that lead out. So depending on which one, what line you're at depends on the other path on the axis. So each path and line. So I was born at 23 at 2. Sorry, 23. I was born hexagram number 2 at 3. So 2 at 3 becomes 23 at 6. So my second path is path 23, and I came in at 6, the 6th line, the top line. And then the axis shows that it goes back to 2, 23 at 6, then the axis goes back to 2 at 3. So it was looking at this document, I was suddenly like, oh, and I was mapping the counter hexagrams, like, okay, well, where are they? Where do they go? Where does everyone go? And this sort of didn't provide, the radial arrangement provided more of an idea of something sitting behind it than this did necessarily. I didn't quite understand that, and I couldn't understand how I could assemble that. But when I understood what I did outside and I came back and I looked at this document, I could see from the 4 sides that it was gonna it was definitely possible to make this into a pyramid. Somebody's at my door, and I think it's my neighbor wants the battery, so I'm just going to walk away for a couple of minutes. Leave something other to look at. So I'll leave the pyramid, which brings us here. Okay, so once I realized that everything could be made into a pyramid, then I set about creating the pyramid. So I come back here to when you come in through stargates to get to a planet, it implies that your template takes on the mathematical coding of the stargate you came through. So the pyramid, what the pyramid allowed me to do was really just let me to that. Was to place, just as in the radial signature, I was able to place in the pyramid so that everything faced its pair. If you draw a line through the center, so everything is about the center. So the center is the axis. So for example, number 1 is opposite number 2. And they are at the center. They're beyond, well, they are polarity, but they're kind of beyond polarity. So every center has a center. And then you've got destiny paths. Ultimately, they're destiny to 63, 1, 64, or 2. So 1 and 2, destiny to the center. They kind of make it. Hexagram 63 and 64, destiny to each other. So they represent a switch in polarity, as do, so all of the destinies, all of the, sorry, counter hexagrams sit within these two spaces, within these two levels of the pyramid. And then all the others sit as 12 by 12 round the outside. So hexagrams, let's just zoom in a little bit. So you can see from this that hexagrams 31, 33, 49, and 13 all have a counter hex, so a destined shift of emphasis to 44. And then, so there's only that counter that end up kind of as a shift of emphasis that end up at number 1 as a destiny is 44, 28, and 43. So 43 and 44 are pairs, and 23 and 24 are a pair, and they all sit within this destiny 2 squares. So this within the pyramid, you have the yin half and the yang half. So this is kind of like growing yang to summer solstice and yang's brightness, full heat. And then that moves towards fall equinox up here. So the equator, the point of equalization, runs diagonal across here. And then the blue path is a yin path. It's a right brain path. This is the left brain path. This is the above path and the below path. So this is yang, yin, left brain, right brain, masculine, masculine, yang, yang, yin, yin. And you can see that from the dark. And then this is the point of equalization that runs all the way through the middle. You can see plus and minus. Polarity is marked, top and bottom. So the counter hex positions are given by the I Ching. The pair positions, they cross through the center, are given by the I Ching. So these two, the left and right brain paths, 6 paths, destiny path 63 and 64, I call them. They cross polarity with their pair. So 15 provides the perfect pair to path 16. And I have decoded path 16. And what it became apparent was that what 15 was allowing 16 to do was to penetrate all the way along both sides of the left and right of this board in terms of what paths were walked and what got covered. It really is completely fascinating. So 15 and 16 are a pair. And then each hex is then also across the board to its opposite. So destiny path 63 and 64. So these two sides of the pyramid will always cross polarity as a result of walking that path. And the above and below, the yang and the yin paths, these sides of the pyramid, which include the ascension column, goes all the way to the center, as per the classic Mayan pyramids. Their pair is the same polarity. So 7 and 8. So they cross the mystic column, which runs up through the middle, just from the universal compass, really, and from the sacred harmonic module, the soul kin. So 60 and 61 are here. Sorry, 59 and 60. And then just the count of the cornerstone pairs cross. So 61 and then 62 is over here. Parallel and equal distance from the center. And then 30 and 29 are pairs and opposites. So they cross over. Polarity as pairs and opposites. But these pairs, 7 and 8, 3 and 4, 19 and 20, 41 and 42, and then 31 and 32 up here, 33 and 34, 49 and 50, spiritual birth. And you can see where those things exist within the pyramid. So what the pyramid does is it replicates the information that is held within the that is held within the Fuji traditional radial arrangement, but it also shows it reflects the opposite. So 15 is opposite 10, they're opposites. And you can see, like, for every yin line, there's a yang line in the other. So 15 has only one yin line. It's one line from pure yin, as does 16, 10. And then 9, the opposite, is 5 yang lines and 1 yin line. So it shows all of the relationships. So the pyramid provides structure to the I Ching in accordance with the pair and counter hexagrams as an extension to the information provided by the I Ching, and the radial earlier heavy arrangement is the addition of the relationship between the parallel hexagrams and their pairs. So one of the sacred crosses here is 15, 10, 16, 9. 9 and 10, 15 and 16. Yeah, so this can be used to ascertain the entire system architecture. This is the system architecture. This is the mathematical coding of stargates for Earth. So then it's starting to analyze what exists within that pyramid. So we can see here, there's an overview, like, of the pair hexagrams. So that on this side, so on the blue and the red sides, the pink sides, they cross polarity. So this is masculine polarity, feminine polarity, or yang and yin. All this is yang and below is yin. And then you've got the parallel hexagram. So 9 and 16 are parallel. And then if we start to then relate the pyramid placements back to the radial signatures, you'll see that 16 gets to the middle and its complete opposite is 9. And that's demonstrated by the pyramid. And it's, as is the, on the other one, 9 and 16. So this is the mystic column. And then the pairs, 11 and 12, 53 and 54. So they carry, like, a set of pairs between them, 53 and 54. Even though 53 and 54 are both in each, they line up with the other. And then the parallel, so this is the parallel that's working across the same distance on the radial signature that we looked at earlier. The parallel is marked there, 16. So it's on either end, and then on the parallel, it's in the middle. So all of this, these 45-degree lines and the 90-degree lines, they all exist between the pyramid and the radial signatures, and they produce us the sacred cross. So for each hexagram, it's part of a family, a sacred cross family. And those are here. So these are the families. These are the sacred crosses of the I Ching. And as a path, as an annual path, which I'll get to in a while, this is the journey that is taken. So winter, spring. So as we roll this out to the universal compass, then you experience winter, spring, summer, autumn. So over here, then that would be like winter, spring, summer, autumn. I'm trying to think what current year you're in. I can't think at the moment. So then again, like, as I produce these, then another shape from the Maya shows itself, and that's the Madrid Codex, which is one of only 2 paper-based references we have from the Maya. Everything's been burnt over time. So all of this is from this is the Madrid Codex, blown up big, I think, small pages. And then the universal compass is shown in here, and then these seasonal paths are all shown as well, and the equinox paths. And then each of the archetypes how they're kind of within these paths, and at 1 and at 13, so they represent like full paths. So the path starts here, and then you've got a 1 and a 13, so marks the start and the end of the paths. And this had fascinated me, and I'd always read it, so I recreated it accurately, and I was trying to find something hidden within it, like left to right, going across all the pages. But what I understood later on, when I had to find a way to get as many years onto one document as I could in one place, I was working left to right, and I had to shift everything 90 degrees and work vertically in order just to get enough of years on the page. And then I was just like, oh, I know what that is. I've seen that before. Yes, this is the families. So that the hexagram runs along the top, and its sacred cross sits underneath it, as it would appear as the universal compass as a whole year, a solar year. So if your solar year hex was 20, then you'd experience winter would be 20 at whatever line you're at. And then 19 at the same line is spring, 34 is summer at the same line, and 33 winter. And then this is the counter hex, the destiny hex, or the shift of emphasis that you will experience as a result of walking that path. So each year you're being drawn back to the center, because remember, on the pyramid, on the pyramid, you're always, whatever path you're walking, the destiny is closer to the center than the path you're walking. So if you're walking path 44, then that's destiny is to path number 1. It doesn't matter where you start. If 31 is going to go to 44. So every path is designed to collapse a polarity, to pull you back to the center on something. So both the pyramid and hemisphere are in complete shapes, and this is something I learned from Dr. Kareem. And this book really is worth some time, probably the last of the ones that I mentioned, but that's where it appeared in my timeline, was after I'd read the others. But what Dr. Kareem, one of the many things that Dr. Kareem explains is that both the pyramid and hemisphere are in complete shapes, and they're used to indicate the unseen half. So relating to the fact that every half of everything is missing, then it indicates that which is held in the shadow, in the unconscious right brain. The square is indicative of a circle, so the circle square, so a square is, yeah, the circle square. And the pyramid is indicative of a sphere. The I Ching pyramid indicates a diamond architecture. So I've mapped those. It's much easier read as a flat thing, but we can also map the universal compass to it and understand how the pairs and path fit with that. So yeah, once I understood, after this study of fractals, once I understood that I could form everything into a pyramid, then I knew I could also form it into a radial expression. So this is the radial expression of the I Ching pyramid, and it does the same. It places everything opposite and through the center of its path, its pair. And what is created by the destiny hexes, the shift of emphasis, and the pulling towards the center, is we see once again the exact proportions and sacred geometry of the eternal flower of life, with 1 and 2 at the center. So something's quite interesting is when I was undertaking this work with regards to shape, I wanted to, so I'd broken up a 2D, a flat shape, and I kept fractalizing it and like doubling it, and so to 4 to 8 to 16 fractals to 32, and then just doing that with like 4 based on the family of 4, the family of 5, the family of 6. So I got to a point where I had a 64-sided shape. The 64 are gone. And I was like, oh, I wonder what the Archimedes solid for that is. Is there an Archimedes solid for the 64-sided shape? So one came up, but then when I read about it, it turns out it isn't. It's a 62-sided solid. The rhombicosi dodecahedron, I think it is, or dodecagon or something. Anyway, I'm going to find it. 64-sided Archimedes solid. It has 62 sides. Rhombicosi dodecahedron, yeah. So I was like, oh, 62. Surprised that's not 64. And then I realized, of course, one is everything to the outside of it and two is in the center. So that is the model. That's the model that correlates, resonates with the I Ching. That's a lifetime on Earth. Rhombicosi dodecahedron. So yeah, we have, and then we start to overlay. Then we understand that the I Ching is and the pyramid is the genetic program, and the universal compass is indicative of our planetary program. So it's the universal compass that the classic Maya were talking to us about, and it's the genetic program that works within that the I Ching is talking to us about. So what exists within those shapes and within this I Ching pyramid is also the sacred cross that's created by the cornerstone pairs. And a quick read through this introduction document will explain to you the difference between the cornerstone pairs and those that there's only the pair and the counterpart are the same. So they form this sacred cross. This is formed by the cornerstone pairs within the I Ching. And then when we overlay the two, then this is the planetary and genetic. The planetary and genetic 12-string 64 codon DNA system architecture for third density Earth, so for the third rung. And the loom of the Maya, we understand the loom of the Maya is the cross, the pyramid from the top, and the loom of the universal compass is the lunisolar, so marked by the winter solstice, so deep yin, making the journey up past the equator at spring equinox, up to the peak, summer solstice, back down across the equator, the pivot of equalization, the fall equinox, and then back down to yin. So this is what the loom of the universal compass looks like. This is the loom of planet Earth. And then when we apply that across to the I Ching pyramid, it gives us the pointers we had earlier, where this is a positive polarity, and then the yin negative polarity. Spring equinox as the 0 point markers, the equator. Also, yeah, so all the EQs, it's the equator, it's the equinoxes, 0 point. And then on this other axis, we have the summer solstice and winter solstice. So we turn that 45 degrees, then we end up with deep yin at the bottom of the dip, and then the full brightness, yang, summer solstice at the top. So that's how this is derived. So that's how the universal compass works. And then when we apply that to the radial signature, we can see that each radial signature, as you saw earlier, had this cross of polarity that happened at the fall equinox markers and the spring equinox. So on a pink or blue path, then this will become in this space and this space, then it will switch 90 degrees on the pyramid, and it will become like a dark green or a light green, yang or yin, or above or below. And and vice versa. So this is a above below polarity path. So the equinoxes represent the switch of emphasis that is to the left and right sides of the pyramid rather than the top and bottom. So winter solstice, it's a yin. Summer solstice, it reaches its opposite, which is the yang. And then by winter solstice, it's reached back to 0 point of the start here. So it kind of goes like a zigzag to here. And then if we just keep following the same patterns through, taking them through the universal compass, then that gives us the template for the seasons, which is the path. So the annual hex come onto at winter solstice, and that is demonstrated by the path. And then spring is the pair, then the opposite, and then the pair of the opposite. So if you're on a yang path, then at summer solstice you'll be on a yin path, and then within the families, that polarity. So the polarity is the starting polarity provided by the annual hex. But by the time you get to the end of that year and you've traversed winter, spring, summer, autumn, this is your shift of emphasis, your change. So it's not changed polarity, it's still of yang polarity, but balance has been provided to that by the universal compass within the seasons. So summer and autumn, spring and summer were like seeing the same issue from, or the whatever it is that has your attention, let's say for that year, the polarity of that situation is reflected and balanced out by the universal compass within the families, within the sacred crosses. So the only paths where you cross polarity is 63 and 64 as an outcome, because they destined to each other. So here is 63 crosses polarity to its outcome, whereas here, like, this is a yang path, and although yin is experienced summer and autumn, the outcome is yang. So that's kind of how that works. That's how the path of the feathered serpent sort of is demonstrated within the Madrid Codex, and that's also how I've ended up rolling it out within the charts. So this is just really a continuation of that. So we're coming in here at winter solstice and taking this journey up at spring equinox to 44. So 43, and then it's pair, and then crosses polarity on this path. It just does it in that order. Other paths work in different orders. They might cross over for these two and then come back. But yeah, 43 is opposite. It's 23, that's experienced summer, and then 24 autumn brings us back to the following year. So I was looking for a way to kind of represent that. My search was to find a pattern template that could be used to demonstrate the progression of the path aligned with the universal compass, that also included the outcome. So in this version here, the path is 43, 44, 23, 24 for the year, and the outcome is number 1. And then that shape again appeared back over in the Madrid Codex, within their universal compass drawing as a path. And what they're doing here with this along the edge is just showing what side the light is falling on that path to demonstrate whether it was a yin or a yang path. And then again, the paths that we looked at earlier within the stonework of their pyramids, they were also using this kind of progressional compass to show not only represent a path, but also to show the polarity of that path, and the polarity in terms of outcome from above and below. So the progressional compass that allows that polarity view, if it's a yang path, then it has an upwards impact on the next hex. So it kind of, no matter how it leads, what leads it in, it leads out in a yang direction. So the next one comes above it. If it's heading in a yin direction, then it's taking down within, it's heading downwards. So spring comes here. So it really depends on which hex it is, to which direction it takes. And then this just is the following year starting again. So that is that, but without the counter hex involved. The shapes created to resolve this echo those found within the classic Maya. This pattern of correlation between systems is echoed throughout my work and demonstrates that BCE, before the current era, there was a common knowledge and wisdom held across the planet that is lost to us today. So creating the charts. So the charts fall straight off with the radial signature. So this is the radial signature for path 16. And its opposite is 9. So I've just swapped out the form now, and we're just following numbers just to let us know whereabouts in the book we are. So 16 is a yin path, so it heads downwards to 51, which is a yin. At 54, there's a swap in polarity and it starts to head upwards. 34 is yang. So then we have this long run of yang. Fall equinoxes here. So kind of like by the middle of the path, then this is on a yang journey, or it's certainly of yang polarity. And then by the time it gets to the end of the path, it's walked itself all the way back to the equator again. So the result of walking the path isn't a shift in polarity. It starts kind of exactly where it finished, but what's held within that experience is the learning. So what the full path program for number 16 looks like is this, and we can just take that directly off of, I'll just open that radial signature. So 16 at 1 is 16, 40, 32, 46. So we can just find that. 16, what was it? 16, 40, 32, 46. 16 at 1. 16 at 1, 16, 42, 32, 46. And then what this map shows is the effect that that's having on polarity, or the polarity of that's being experienced. So path 16 is a very deep yin path. It has this run all the way through the middle. So if, for example, you came in at 4, then you'd experience the first part of the path would be more equal in terms of polarity. But at some point on walking this whole path, regardless of where you come in at, then it's a very yin path. The full path is held within that 12-string signature. So I think that's so this is just overlaying Ashayana's Dean work, the Guardian materials again. So the Cathar and the Macabre, and then the Tribeca. Yeah, Mane, Ire, Manu. And just overlaying them all to one. So there is there's lots of light held within that. It's worth studying to see what's going on there. I think that's it. I think that's the introduction document covered. So let me know if this answers questions that you had with regards to how I got where I got, and how to read your charts. So I haven't yet included any part of this document, and I think what I would do would be to create a separate video for that. So yeah, I'd be really, really interested to hear your thoughts, and let me know where the gaps still are. Thank you. I appreciate it.